President Trump, knowing that half the room stands, half the room sits, kind of backed some of these people into a corner. And look, they couldn't really take the bait one way or the other, but it made for an interesting television moment.
Tonight, I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
So you see that visual where half the room stands and applauds and half the room sits down. I would hope they agree with the statement because they are elected by American citizens as their representative. And it was a cleverly worded statement because it says the first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. That shouldn't be controversial as a statement. Now, he knew it was a trap. He knew that they wouldn't, and they took the bait.
Yeah.
However, then I turned on CNN after the State of the Union was over to hear what some of their commentary was. And the way that they framed that question, even with their panel, when they were discussing it, and they had kind of a focus group that they spoke with, they said, and then he had that moment where he said, stand up if you don't support illegal immigrants. That wasn't what the question was. And so CNN even tried to spin it as this thing that he said, okay, Republicans, you stand up because you don't support illegal immigrants, and Democrats, you can stay seated. No, he said the duty of the government. You can stand up even if you have the most far out there left-wing ideology that illegal immigrants should be given very close to citizenship as soon as they get here.
Yeah, full rights.
You could probably still stand and say that the duty of the government is for the American people first. That's not controversial. And yet they fell into the trap. And that is going to be used in every super PAC ad. Every single candidate running against a Democrat is going to run that portion and say, my candidate thinks that illegal immigrants are at least on par for protection of the U.S. government, if not more important. They would not stand and agree with this fundamental, basic principle.
Of course, some of the back and forth that also happened between President Trump, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, all your favorite cast of characters that did decide to show up, by the way. They were there while AOC and Adam Schiff opted out.
And enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country. And you should be ashamed of yourself.
Saying you should be ashamed of yourself as they were yelling back things like, you have murdered Americans.
Ilhan Omar's protests back were when President Trump said these individuals have murdered Americans. She would respond with, you murdered Americans. And when he said things like they should be ashamed of yourselves, the Democrats says, you should be ashamed of yourselves. She's just repeating back. It's like you're mean. You know, it was such a lame pushback. But she and Omar, after they disrupted, they didn't stay for the whole speech. They left during the moment when President Trump reunited a daughter with her father, who had been a political prisoner under Nicolas Maduro. In the room, they decided to get up and leave. Their only reason for being there was to disrupt. They got there, they got their TV time, they shouted back. Rashida Tlaib showed really where she stands when it comes to representing this country. When people were chanting USA in the crowd, there's a video of her saying KKK. So no respect for the country, no respect for the Constitution. They may try to claim that, but they don't. They don't like America.
Dozens of people that should have been in that room decided to protest because of how serious the nature is of what President Trump is saying and how much they vehemently disagree with him and think he's like sitting in the room with a fascist dictator. That's the premise. That these times in this world are so serious right now that we have to hold these counter events because it's too hard for us to sit in the room with someone that we think is, again, a fascist dictator. How are we going to counter-program that?
I'm a mother. I am a physician, and I have a flag. And I am the proud representative for Oregon's 3rd Congressional District. Yes, thank you, thank you. And tonight, I defy Trump and his authoritarian project by standing in joyful, radical, peaceful resistance with the Portland Frog Brigade.
You're telling me that the world is crumbling, we're in the midst of a world war, that all of this, is happening because of a fascist dictator, an authoritarian, President Trump, and all of this, and we're going to hold a protest, and your serious protest, by the way, which should be reaching outside of Portland, I understand this may work in Portland, is a dozen people in inflatable frog costumes. I don't care what it is she has to say. It is completely made invalid by the visual. Is it funny? Sure. Did I think this was supposed to be funny? I don't think so.
If I were an extreme liberal in this Portland district, in Oregon's 3rd Congressional District, I would be outraged and say, I want a new representative. I want a new member of Congress, because you're telling me this man is literally Hitler. You've been telling me that for years, and the best you've got is frog costumes. They are such an unserious group of people. You have to realize one of two things are true. Because of what they have projected that Donald Trump is. Either they are lying to the American people, which I believe that they are, and because if he is as bad as they say he is, can you imagine during World War II if the resistance to the Axis powers were going around in frog costumes saying, I defy you, Mussolini. I mean, imagine this.
Right.
It's so ridiculous. Or also, Trump derangement syndrome is a clinical thing at this point, where your brain is unable to come up with rational things to push back. So this seems like a great idea.
I just find it to be so insincere when it matches what the content is. If you had a fun rally, and this happened, you brought up, this is a political rally, a big show, sure, bring on the Frog Brigade. It doesn't bother me at all that these people exist. But when you bring it up during a time where you are literally questioning not only whether the president of the United States can be doing what he's doing, but you're calling him racist. You have people chanting that people are being murdered in the streets. If you truly, sincerely believe that, this would not be the way you responded.